Commission meeting for September the 25th. Please stand as Ms. Gooden will lead us in our invocation, and Mr. Taylor will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for the people who have gathered here to do the business of Buckingham County. Please bless the homes where all of the individuals have come from, and may our homes, may the board work together to do the work of Buckingham County. In Jesus'
flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's what I was saying.
Thank you, Commissioners. That brings us to establishing a quorum. We have 7 of 8, so we do have a quorum. Nikki, is there any changes to the agenda?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve as presented?
So move.
Second.
All right, all in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, the agenda is approved. That brings us to approval of minutes, or August 21st, I can't see very good. I'm having some eye problems. Is that the 21st?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Work session, apologize. And do I have approval as presented, or is there someone have changes?
So moved.
Sorry.
Okay, have a motion to approve as presented. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, that passes. That brings us to August 28th, regular meeting. Do I have a motion to approve as presented, or someone have changes?
So moved.
Second.
I have to have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, that brings us, that passes. Now that brings us to public comment period. Do we have any people signed up?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, we have 3 individuals signed up, and the first would be John Snoddy, followed by Kenda Hahneman.
Okay, thank you. Please remember you have 3 minutes. State your full name, address.
Let's see.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. You're welcome.
Good evening. My name is John Snoddy. I am the Environmental and Safety Director at Kyanite Mining Corporation, 30 Willis Mountain Plant Lane in Dillwyn, Virginia. On behalf of Kyanite Mining, thank you all for the work you're undertaking to review the county's comprehensive plan. Over the last few weeks, I've spoken with many of my 125 coworkers about the comprehensive plan review. A recurring request from my coworkers, and here I am making that request of you all, is to ensure that mining continues to be recognized in the plan as the vitally important land use that it's been in Buckingham County for the last couple of centuries. As I just noted, there are 125 families, 126 when you include mine, who depend on their good-paying jobs in the mining industry right here in Buckingham County. Related to that number of mining jobs, Kyanite Mining Corporation respectfully requests that the data presented to you for inclusion in the draft plan be reviewed for accuracy. Last week, when you folks were presented a table entitled Employment by Industry, that was figure 25 in the draft plan, I'm afraid you were given inaccurate information. The table indicated that mining and quarrying only provided 64 jobs in this county. Kyanite Mining provides 126 jobs in this county alone. When you add the 21 jobs provided by Boxley and the 15 at James River Slate, the actual number of mining jobs in Buckingham is more than 160. Since you'll be using demographic and employment data as a tool to review the comprehensive plan, we respectfully request that the data be accurate. Earlier, I alluded to the fact that mining is woven into the very fabric of Buckingham County. I presented each of you with an informational summary from a study performed by Virginia Tech just this year. The summary is entitled "The Economic Contribution of Construction Aggregates and Industrial Mineral Mining in Virginia." 2 or 3 items on that front page are worth mentioning. First, mining contributes 6,769 jobs in this state. Further, mining contributes $132 million in state and local taxes in the Commonwealth. Finally, if you look at the graphic at the bottom of the page, you'll see that the 10-county region, of which Buckingham is a part, mining contributes $63 million in economic vitality. In closing, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to remind you of mining's positive impacts. My family and I experience those impacts every day, and request that mining continues to be recognized as the beneficial land use that it's been for many a generation of Buckingham families. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Kenda Hanuman and Swami Dayananda will be next.
Good evening, Kenda Hanuman, District 5. I heard, Mr. Snoddy's comment about land use. I think it's really important, and I really care about that too. I think when Commissioner Kapuscinski asked regarding the policy for industrial scale solar, if anybody had put pen to paper. I don't know if that was ever accomplished. Supervisor Miles suggested that there be 7,500 acres in the fenced area only counted. So all of that outside the fence would amount to approximately 18,600 acres that would be removed from agricultural use, or basically timbering. That's greater than the 2% that Supervisor Miles portrayed. He said that would be 2% of Buckingham County. It would be more about 5% of the total county, and it would be a higher percentage if you only consider the land that's in timber production. So that's a lot of land use for industrial scale solar, I'm sure you can see. The economic impact of the agriculture and forest industries in Virginia by Terrence Repan, PhD, from Weldon Cooper, says every job created in the agriculture and forest industries results in another 1.6 jobs in the Virginia economy. Every dollar generated in value added results in another $1.39 value added to the Virginia economy. So I usually talk to you about gold, but tonight I'm talking to you about timber and land use and industrial scale solar. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, ma'am.
And Swami Dayananda will be is the last one signed up for public comment, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening. I wanted to come and thank you all and to say how happy I have been to be living in Buckingham. I just noted this year that it's been 40 years since I came to Buckingham from New York City. And I live as a monastic at Yogavale Satchidananda Ashram for 30 years. Of the 40 that I have lived, the last 10 years on Warminster Church Road, where my mother left 30 acres of land for me to take care of. And I had no idea that I would become a farmer. Using a little part of this 30 acres, I have grown vegetables and medicinal herbs, and I continue. I'm hoping to build a pizza kiln, which is halfway done, and lots of tomatoes for tomato sauce. So in Buckingham, I had no idea what wonderful soil it has. I've been having a very good success in different kind of vegetables. And I come here today to say that I hope to continue growing many medicinal herbs and vegetables and to share more regenerative way, better way to use the soil, to create healthier soil, and to share that with others. I do vermiculture, which is to grow worms, and making compost, which is a wonderful way to, yeah, I'm sure some of you probably know better than myself about farming. I'm still learning. And so in regard to the comprehensive plan, I don't have anything specific, but just to hope and to be part of healthy, environmentally safe, economic growth for Buckingham. And I would love to be a part of any project or anything that can promote more farming, as well as tree planting and so on. And I hope in the future that I have an opportunity to speak with you more. And thank you all for your service. Very much appreciated. And Yogaville, by the way, when I came, it was a family of 5. And now it is 250 or more people with adults and children, with many, many new homes built. And this is a wonderful for Yogaville Village Center, which I hope will remain and expand under your guidance. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. That's all the people that signed up, Mickey?
Yes, sir, that's all for
Okay.
public comment.
I'll close the public comment period, and we'll move to old business, and that's the public hearing case for Blue Rock Solar.
Yes, sir, that case is 23 SUP 329. Landowners are Blue Rock Resources LLC and JAMN Limited Partnership LLP. The applicant is Blue Rock Solar LLC. And of course, their request first came to you in July, and that is to obtain a special use permit to allow for the construction and operation of a solar photovoltaic PV models to produce up to 100 megawatt utility scale solar facility on approximately 1,127 acres in Buckingham County. Our applicants are here with us this evening. They do have a presentation. And as far as the public hearing is concerned, I do not have anyone signed up to speak during the public hearing, but we did receive an email from a citizen today who is unable to attend. She asked that I forward that email to all of the planning commission, which I did earlier today.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's hold that. I'm gonna get you to read that, but Mr. Pineda, do you wanna do your presentation first before the public hearing? We only got that one, but do you come on forward and do your presentation then, sir?
Evening, Chairman. Thank you. Running through it? Yeah, you can go ahead and start. So I'm going to skip over the nuances of what we've already talked about. I think I wanted to follow up on a couple of questions from Pete on the last time we were here, and then just reiterate some of the items that we had previously talked about. I know there's been some discussion at the county around an ordinance. I know there was some additional discussion around a cap and maybe a change in the proposed cap. So I'll just walk through kind of high level. Pete, last time we were here, you asked about two things. So the topo map, we looked back, the topo was included. It was an exhibit in the application. I believe it was exhibit C6. I've got that, I'll show that in a little bit. We also went back about the VDOT, and you had some concerns about traffic entering in through the south proposed entrance. We did go back through the application. There was a VDOT consultation in there, which essentially just requires us to go through a full traffic management plan. We did confirm that that is both incorporating comments and review from VDOT and also Buckingham County. So even though I think Mr. Allen mentioned it was a public road or a county or state road, the Buckingham County will get input into that. So any signage, stoplight, anything that may be required on a temporary basis for use of that, we will obviously incorporate all those comments
Thank
and get
you.
your review. The bulk of today is, like I mentioned, to go over some of the highlights of the project and reiterate that, you know, RWE wants to be a good neighbor. We think we've selected a site that is, you know, really ideal for large-scale solar, and we want to just reiterate some facts that we believe this gives the county a very real prospect at potential revenue, both from a tax side, but then also what's created during the construction phase of the project. Skip this. So you guys are all familiar with the location of the project. So some of the economic and fiscal benefits. So when we look at the economic benefits, so the project in the application we talked about, it will contribute roughly $3.2 million in associated local wages and benefits, and another $15 million in local economic output during the construction phase. During operations, we estimate that there's roughly $1.2 million in local benefit. And then the project itself will generate approximately $9.6 million in local tax revenue. That's not in addition to the additional tax revenue or the additional siting agreement revenue that we assume will be required as part of the conditional use or special use permit. One of the facts, I know you guys have been back and forth on an acreage cap, and I know you guys have been presented, you know, a handful of these projects. When we look at the PJM, so what has been proposed for projects coming through PJM, and so this excludes what may be smaller scale with Dominion, we believe our project provides you with the highest probability to actually see those tax benefits received. If you go to the next slide, I can show you why. This is all public information, so this was pulled directly from PJM's website. So when you look at the interconnection queue, you've got two projects that are ahead of us that are either active or in service. Those two projects, one was the Apex project, the other is your 20 megawatt project that's on Route 60 that's built. We are third in line. We talked about when we expect this project to be online, and we said the earliest it could come online would be 2026, right? PJM just recently went through queue reform, so I highlighted in 3 colors where those other projects are. We also put a column in there to show you what attributed network upgrades will be associated with those projects that are behind us in the interconnection queue. If you look at where we are at, we have $0 in network upgrades associated with the project. So I know there's sensitivity around how much industrial scale solar comes into the county. I can say, you know, factually that based on these numbers where they're currently sitting, that our project is probably the only one that is viable right now. And that's not to say the other studies change, but it is certain that other projects are going to struggle to achieve economics that will actually be able to be built and financed. Additionally, the color code talks about, just based on the PJM queue reform, when in reality those projects could come online. So the bulk of the projects that have been presented in the county don't have a likelihood of coming online before the end of 27, 28 for 4 projects that are behind us. And then the bulk of the projects don't have a shot at coming online based on the PJM queue reform process until the end of 2020, so closer to 2030. Slide, please. Slide. So in previous discussions, I think we've talked about a couple different things and understanding the sentiments that we've heard from the county. I think one of the biggest items is view shed. And I think we've picked a location, and I think we've presented that where it is, you know, highly protected from any view shed issues. Obviously not bisected by a major road. It's on the edge of the county. What that does, you know, for impacts to your guys' traffic route impacts, schools, right? We've been through that. There's no churches on that road in close proximity. And so we really do feel that it's ideal. We've also talked about decommissioning, what happens to land. You know, as we've been over before, over 900, and I think it's 38 acres of this project is leased. There's only 194 acres that we purchased with the addition of maybe 5 acres for the substation that will be required to be deeded over to Dominion. But the bulk of that land under the lease obligations has a decommissioning bond requirement, so will be restored at the end of the useful life of the project. In addition, we've talked about naming the county. I think we'd like to stick to that, have that as a condition. if we ever get to a approved special use permit. But we talked about other projects in the state. This is just one of our other projects. I think it's called Pleasant Hill. I believe it's in Suffolk County. Again, just on the view shed. So we want to be a good neighbor. We want to be out of sight, out of mind. I think we've picked that location. So if you flip through these, the exception of the entrance for the substation is probably the only place where you'll see it. We've done 5-year growths, and then a 10-year growth plan to show that, you know, our intention is to make sure this thing stays out of sight and out of mind. Very little visibility along Stagecoach Road as you keep going. I think in addition, natural resources and wildlife, and so the incorporation of those wildlife corridors, we've touched on that before, you know, each array being individually fenced to allow for that. Next slide, please. And then stormwater design being a big one. So just to reiterate, you know, the detailed civil design will have to go through the erosion and sediment control, both for temporary measures and then permanent measures, again, reviewed by the state and the county. And then this is a picture of the switchgrass project in construction, Pete, just so you could see what those mitigation measures look like with the buffers around the wetlands and the stormwater basins to catch any runoff and filter that down.
Sorry, where is that?
That is the Pleasant Hill project of ours in Suffolk County during its construction phase. I think that picture is about 1.5 years.
Just, I don't mean to interrupt your presentation, but what's the buffer distance there?
I don't have that offhand.
Thank you.
Pete, this is the topo map. So when we talk about why we selected the site in comparison to all the other sites in Buckingham County, you know, the site is extremely flat comparatively. I think we had mentioned there's a couple areas where the slope got, you know, over a tolerable amount for solar. Those are highlighted in yellow and orange. So as you can see, very flat site overall. The VDOT process, to reiterate what I was mentioning earlier, Pete, this initial consultation letter was included in the application. Again, any further process, the traffic management plan will need to be done in collaboration with VDOT and Buckingham County.
Does that have to be done before you're permitted?
That has to be done before we start construction. Yeah, and so typically, it would be done during the PBR process. Lauren, you correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, so we would need the state permit to be issued before we can finalize our civil design. And there may be some changes required during the state review process. Obviously, they'd have to be, you know, confined within the limits of whatever the county approves. And then once you have that and you can have your civil design completed, then you need that before you can start construction. And that's it. And so just one more time to reiterate, when you look at all the other projects that have been presented, you know, we've given you an aggressive schedule that shows that we can actually be online by 2026 and contribute real dollars to the county. Comparatively, you know, and genuinely, we believe that. I think the facts show that. So, you know, we do request, you know, you guys put forward a motion to approve this project to the Board of Supervisors. Any questions?
Any questions from the commissioners?
Sure, I've got a couple if you don't mind. First is, I look at the book and in 4.1, you suggest that setback from existing residential dwellings by a minimum of 828 feet from the site plan. I would assume that's from the fence. And then in your application, you're citing 300 feet. So the question is, which is it? Are you at?
So the 300 feet is, I think it's in line with what previous conditions were set on other projects.
Okay,
I think what we were saying with the 800 feet is when you look at the actual conceptual project design that we've shown you, and I think we had a map in there that showed the distances from
Right.
the actual residences.
800 feet.
That's 800 feet.
And you don't intend to encroach any further?
So we would stay within the confines of the property. I think just physically you cannot, right, because of how far a lot of those residences are.
Okay.
But obviously, one of the things that we'd like to do is maintain that condition, the 300-foot condition, irregardless of how the panels may shift during
Okay.
the state permit process.
Are your holding ponds inside or outside the fence?
So there's a mix, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Lauren? It's a mix.
So if you've got a condition, a setback condition to the fence line of 50 feet, and you're suggesting as well that you're gonna have 50 feet of vegetative buffering, how would you do that plus a holding pond in that 50 foot?
I think irregardless, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Lauren, it would be 50 foot to the start of the retention pond. So you would it would just be an additional buffer. You'd have a greater than a 50-foot buffer from
So what
that
your,
line
what
to
your
the-
condition is 50 foot of vegetative beyond the holding pond.
So
You take the fence plus the holding pond, and then you'd add 50 foot. and
Correct.
You'd make sure that that would not encroach on
Correct.
the property line.
correct.
The distance to right-of-way apparently is 75 feet, but with regard to wetlands and streams, I thought I read something where you were gonna allow 50 foot from wetlands and streams. Did I read that correctly? And I don't know if the proposal from the county has anything specifically stated, Mr. Allen. Is there a proposal, in the draft, I thought I read it, but I couldn't find it again. Is there a minimum requirement to a wetland or a stream?
Not sure.
What is this?
I'm not sure what
I
the
think there's
distance
a
is for
minimum
that.
distance for the stream. I'm not, they delineate the wetlands, and they don't disturb it, other than, if that's what you're asking.
Well, I think
Yes.
the reason I'm asking is because I think there was I'm curious to find out what's in the county. I mean, I thought I read 75 foot in the county proposal. But what I want to point out, Mr. Chairman, is that in the county proposal, in the draft, right, the minimum requirements are set out. As an example, distance to dwellings is set out at 500 feet. Distance to a wetland is not certain to me. I thought it was 75 feet. Distance to a fence line is 75 feet. Vegetative buffer is 50, and distance to right-of-way is 75 feet. I think some of these are being met, not just in this particular project, but in other projects that have come before us. But there are, as in this project, minimums that are not being met. So, the question I'm asking you, sir, is shouldn't we be recommending at least conditions that meet the minimums in this draft proposal? Otherwise, what sense is there in a draft proposal?
Well, what we have put forward is the 30 conditions of the previous solar farms, and that's what the county has agreed on. And they have met all of those criteria. The draft, I assume, was changed to meet, as we discussed those previous applications. So what you're asking is, do we want to ask them to have larger buffers?
Yeah, in other words, I think, for my part, I would recommend and be willing to make a motion that on a minimum basis, the conditions that are being offered by any project owner at least meet those minimum requirements that are in the draft proposal. Otherwise, I have no idea why we even want to have a draft proposal.
Well, I can't explain why it changed. I just know in the process of the previous applications, this is what the county ended up with. Primarily, they came, if I recall, from Riverstone, wasn't it, Nikki? That we made those changes. And
Totally understand
Yeah.
that
so they've been brought forward. So what you're asking is, do we want to go back to the original draft? I assume the county had prior to those applications.
what I'm saying is that we have a draft proposal from the county that sets out minimums, as an example, distance from dwellings of 500 feet. As an example, distance to the wetland is not certain. I thought it was 75 feet. Distance to fence line, 75 feet. And I'm suggesting to you that in this project as well as other projects, those minimums aren't being met. So my question to you is, should we be recommending conditions that align with this draft proposal?
I will answer it this way, is that the draft proposal was altered for those previous applications. And the 30 conditions that now the county has been working with did change those minimums. So what you would be doing now is going back and asking any future applications to increase those buffers.
Well, I'm asking them to at least meet the minimums that are in the draft proposal. That's all I'm asking. I mean, am I out of line here, or what?
The draft
Explain to me
proposal-
why it wouldn't be there.
Their proposal hasn't been approved yet, so
Right.
I know it's out there, but the only thing that's approved on it is the acreage, and that's changed from the total acres to the acres inside the fence.
Totally understand that, but then my question is, why would it be, I guess I don't understand why you would have included it in a draft proposal if you wouldn't at least want us to look at it and determine whether or not those minimums are being met. The whole thing is confusing to me. So, I mean, if you want me to totally disregard all of the things except the acreage in the draft proposal, then say so. I mean, because, you know, I've already said, I thought, you know, the use of the land and the area where RWE wants to put this thing is optimal. I told you that. I thought it was really good. But the question I'm asking you is, should we be looking at those minimums that are in that draft proposal that's been published? I've got it here in front of me. When we look at these projects.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm saying it's a draft proposal. So it's looking at what they are thinking it's going to be.
That's
And
right.
our job is to look at what we actually have. And it's like saying whatever they've got in committee, we think we're going to do that, so we need to adjust to what we think they're going to put out. And that's the draft. And why would, I mean,
Why
there are
would you
so
not?
many ideas about a draft. I'm just confused why would be addressing what's in the draft proposal
They
and not
wouldn't-
what we've already done.
Because they wouldn't be interested in having that minimum if they hadn't put it in the draft. So if the Board of Supervisors is talking about putting those minimums and they've drafted that, why wouldn't we be considering it? Why wouldn't it be a condition that we would consider?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
and it just reminds me, and this is just an anecdote, I did a paper, and the paper was on breastfeeding. And my instructor marked my paper down, and it was based on her unpublished works that I had my paper marked down. And I'm looking at a draft, what they have as a draft proposal is information that's there, but it's a draft. And that's like me looking at her unpublished works. It's not out there yet. Information may be out there. We know what's in committee, but because it's in committee, this is what we think they're going to do, so we need to set the standard here. I think we need to look at what the standard is now and not the draft. And the 30 points that we've already set forward is what we're going by. So I'm not understanding why I need to look at a draft now and say, oh, they're going to draft it, so I'm going to set it this way, because I think that's what they're going to do.
Well, the other point is that this applicant came under the assumption of the minimums that we'd already had in our conditions. And although it is being considered by the Board of Supervisors, I really don't think it's fair to come back on this applicant and now say, look, we might do this in the future, so you
Right.
need to do it. Because they've already constructed their project and everything based on the 30 conditions and the limitations and the minimums we have, I really don't feel like it's fair now to come and ask them to increase it, you know, even though that may be the future policy that comes from the Board of Supervisors. So my thinking is, we don't try to institute that on this application because they've already done all this work and prepared based on the information the county gave them.
I agree with that. Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
One other point. I'd like to go back to that chart that you had, and what I want is the chart.
Color
I
coded?
can't see it on my, all I see are little tiny, and I guess I've had
Yeah.
visual problems. Is there a way I can get a print of that? I don't know if anybody else wants one. I just want to be able to read what the chart says.
I understand.
Can you help me?
So Ms. Gooden, this information's all publicly available via PJM?
Uh,
Okay, I was gonna say,
I can forward the,
PowerPoint?
presentation to all the planners.
All right, the other,
Can you shrink it on yours, Nikki?
the other charts and graphs were already in our presentation. I think most of them are already in our.
Most of the other slides are,
Most
yeah.
of those. This one, I just did not remember seeing,
This
and I
one's a
want
new
to be
one.
able to read it.
So in listening to the minutes from your guys' previous sessions,
Right.
between, well, the last time we spoke with you guys, we understand, you know, you guys have had, you know, a lot of projects come forth before you. We understand there's a little bit of fatigue, but we also realize that the benefit that we're talking about as far as the potential revenue to the county is real on our project in comparison to a lot of the other ones that have said that they want to come in and construct. You know, we started this project in 2017, so we optioned the land in 2018. The reason why we're only coming forth now is because the project has matured through the interconnection process. And so if you look at it, you know, these are ordered sequentially on when these projects were submitted to PJM for interconnection studies. You can see that the only two that are in front of us that are active and have not pulled out of the process is our project, right? And then all the other ones follow in a. Yes, ma'am.
I hear what you're saying. My point only is, I want to be able to read this chart and see for myself.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't need more words, okay? Quite simply. I just want to read the chart.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know,
While Nikki's getting that print off, does any other commissioners have any questions whatsoever? Let's do this. Mr. Benita, you sit on down, and when Nikki gets back, she'll hand that paper to the commissioners, and then we'll do the public hearing, and then any questions before we make a decision, I'll call you back up. That'll give you time
that will
to,
give me a moment to see it, just to see.
I can't either. Yes,
Can
ma'am.
anybody up here see that chart on this screen? No. It's blurred to me. Okay,
I thought it was just me.
all right.
My eyes are blurry. I have a scratch cornea, and I'm having a terrible time.
I could have shrunk it on her screen, we could have seen it, but we can't shrink it, we can't shrink ours.
Shrink or enlarge.
Got it on her screen, give it to us.
Okay.
No, you're fine.
No, you
He ain't read none of his either.
Thank you.
Jingle bell, jingle bell.
Thank you, Nikki. Oh. Oh, cool.
Thank you.
Okay.
Read that one paper for the public hearing.
All right, Nikki, we're going to now open up the public hearing,
Okay.
and if you would read the one email that you got for public record, please.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. The One email that I received this evening is from Kristen G. of 1275 Holland Road. And her email states, in support for Blue Rock Solar Development. Dear members of the Planning Commission, I am writing to express my strong support for the Blue Rock Solar Project in Buckingham County. As a concerned resident and advocate for renewable energy initiatives, I believe that this project offers numerous benefits for our community, the environment, and our local economy. 1. Sustainability. This project's proposed location is ideal for solar, both because of its proximity to major power lines and because of its relative flatness compared to much of Buckingham County. Its proposed design would honor the land's existing natural resources and rural character while avoiding negative impacts to wildlife. With proper buffers, it would be virtually unnoticeable for passersby. 2. Tax revenues. Solar projects generate property tax revenue for the county, which could be reinvested into essential services such as education, healthcare, and infrastructure. The project owner estimates the project would generate $9.6 million in county revenue over its anticipated 40-year operational life. 3. Job creation. Large-scale solar projects create jobs and stimulate economic growth in the local community. During construction, these projects generate employment opportunities in various sectors, including engineering, construction, and maintenance. Furthermore, the presence of renewable energy infrastructure can attract new businesses and investments to our county, leading to increased tax revenue and improved local infrastructure. 4. Environmental benefits. Solar energy is a clean and sustainable power source that has minimal impact on the environment. Unlike fossil fuel power plants, solar installations do not produce air or water pollution, making them an environmentally responsible choice. Additionally, the preservation of open space and natural habitats can be achieved with solar developments by promoting responsible land use practices. 5. Energy security. Investing in solar energy enhances our energy security by diversifying our energy sources. Solar power is abundant and can be harnessed locally, reducing our dependence on distant and sometimes unstable sources of energy. This stability can help protect our community from energy price fluctuations and supply disruptions. Long-term sustainability. Solar installations have a long lifespan and require minimal ongoing maintenance. The project will provide clean energy for decades, ensuring a sustainable energy future for generations to come. At the end of the project's life, the land can be converted back to existing land uses. I understand that all development projects must be thoroughly reviewed and meet regulatory requirements to ensure their compliance with local laws and standards. However, I believe that the benefits outlined above, combined with a responsible approach to development, make this solar project a valuable addition to our county. I kindly request that you consider the positive impact that this solar development can have on our community and provide your support for its approval. By embracing clean energy solutions like solar power, we can create a brighter, more sustainable future for Buckingham County. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter. I look forward to seeing our community take a significant step towards a greener, more prosperous future. Sincerely, Kristen G., District 3.
Okay, thank you, Nikki. I'll now close the public comment period, public hearing, and move it back to questions to the commissioners. Joyce, do you have any in regards to your paper? Okay, you're good. Any other commissioners have any questions for the applicant before we make a decision?
I don't have a question for the applicant, but I have a question. I noticed that we're trying to fulfill an 18,000 acres of acreage now since they've increased the inner and outer part of the fence. Are we just trying to fill a quota here, or are we trying to help the county? What is it going to do to the forest land? And I haven't seen any results of these solar farms, and I know this is a great presentation. I appreciate it, but I just hadn't seen anything from any of our projects that we've put in progress. What we're going to do? What's happening for the county? So I'm just in a little doubt. I mean, if I had something to go on, I'd say, yeah, let's do it right now. But we haven't gotten any results back from any of our projects that we've approved. So that's just the way I feel.
Okay. I can only address that or just say that it is a time issue that you don't see the money until the project gets completed. And they rely heavily on the Dominion Power, the hookup, and that's usually the holdup is the connection. So if it does go through, it does benefit the county, which is the economic data that you've been given. So. So, any other questions or anything for the
I
applicant?
think it takes like a year or so for them, at least to get all the permits to get everything done.
It's a lengthy process, so. All right, well, this board panel needs to make a decision whether to move this forward or not. If you don't have any other questions, what is the pleasure of the commission?
I make a motion that we approve it as is, send it to the board.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve and move this forward to the Board of Supervisors. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. It passes. And let's see, Board of Supervisors for Mr. McNeely, when will that be?
October 10th, it's a Tuesday at 6 PM because the 9th is a holiday.
Thank you, Mr. McNeely. Now bring us to our second case, was Buckingham Solar One LLC.
Yes, sir. Our next case is 23 SUP 331, and the landowners are Ivan and Deborah Davis at 106 Whetstone Lane, Dillwyn. The applicant is Buckingham Solar One LLC, which is a division of New Energy Equity LLC. The tax map 151, parcel 17, contains approximately 166.62 acres located at or near 106 Whetstone Lane. This case came before the Planning Commission in July. The Planning Commission did ask the applicant to hold a community meeting. Their request is to obtain a special use permit to allow for the construction and 35-year operation of a 5-megawatt community solar garden. The applicant is back now to update the Planning Commission and the general public regarding those community meetings and to schedule a public hearing for the request. If it is the pleasure of the Planning Commission to hold a public hearing, October 23rd, 2023, 6 PM would be the next regularly scheduled Planning Commission meeting.
Okay, okay.
Our applicant is here this evening.
Okay, would the applicant come forward and give us a summary of the project, anything you want to add, plus also the, your public meeting?
Good evening. My name is Jesse Diamond. Again, I'm with New Energy Equity. We held 2 neighborhood meetings, one on the 22nd and one on the 29th, both from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. at the Buckingham Recreation Center. Our outreach was we sent letters to all adjacent neighbors. Myself and the landowner have approached most of the neighboring landowners to introduce ourselves. I've handed out multiple business cards so that they know who to contact if they have any questions in the future. Had great conversations, a couple of good questions, mostly just curiosity. We did put an ad in the newspaper on both the 18th and the 25th of September to give some notice to the general public. And then again, we had the meeting on the 22nd where we had a representative and the landowner, nobody from the public attended. On the 29th, Cameron Gilliam from District 2 Board of Supervisors attended. He was the only person outside of the landowner and myself. We discussed just kind of a general introduction of the project, site layout and location, and then he just wanted to understand a little bit better about the benefits of shared solar, since you hear a lot about utility scale, and there are some specifics about shared solar that are a little bit different. Any questions on the neighborhood meetings?
Sounds like so.
When we last spoke, Pete, you had a question. You asked how we come up with having an economic impact of $5 million for the county. So I got to work. In our paperwork, in our narrative, we do describe economic impact and kind of some of that. So If it's all right with you, I'm just going to read a couple of paragraphs, which I've shrunk down just a little bit. Is that all right?
That would be fine, sir.
Okay. So in our narrative, we state that an economic impact is a change in employment, income, and the output in an area based on an activity that affects the local economy, such as construction and operation of shared solar facilities. Economic impact includes three components: direct impacts, indirect impacts, and induced impacts. The direct impacts include the changes in employment, worker income, and total economic activity directly related to the shared solar facility. The induced impacts are the effects resulting from changes in spending by employees of the shared solar facility, of employees and other businesses indirectly affected by these facilities, by landowners receiving lease payments, and by consumers who spend money they saved by subscribing to these shared solar facilities. The indirect and induced effect, which is measured how much money ripples through the sectors of the economy, is also referred to as the economic multiplier effect. These impacts can be measured three different ways: through employment, labor income, and output. If you want to read more about that, that's on pages 26 and 27 of our narrative, and it's section 11, economic impact analysis. So to get to the $5 million, there's the development phase, which is hard to quantify a specific dollar amount. But there are engineering services. I use a local engineer to Virginia. I stay locally. I rent cars locally. I eat locally. It does have a smaller impact, but the construction phase, I estimate at about $1.637 million. Operational phase is 2.653. Siting agreement generally for a 5 megawatts, somewhere between about $300,000 to $400,000 of direct impact. And then economic savings from subscriptions, what the community should save on our project is about $5.25 million. And so all of that together is probably just under $10 million. And so a large portion of that is going to be for Buckingham specifically. And so that's where I come up with approximately $5 million of economic impact. And other than that, those were the two items that I wanted to address specifically. Again, my intent tonight is just to request that we can have a public forum in October, so that I can address any public comments and get your opinion on whether or not this is a good project to move forward. So if you have any questions, I'd love to answer them now.
Before we sit down, Mr. Diamond, I'll turn it to the commission if anybody have questions for the applicant before he sits down.
Your acreage be fenced in, be 24 acres, is that what it is, 24.08? Mm-hmm. That the fenced in acreage?
Correct.
Okay. I'm just checking just to make sure. And with 5 megawatts altogether, I like that.
Any other questions from commissioners? Mr. Diamond, you can go ahead and sit down. We'll discuss it now. Thank you, sir. Okay, what is the pleasure of the commission? Are we going to move this forward to public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. That moves forward. So we'll see you in October.
October 23rd.
October 23rd. Thank you, sir. That brings us to a new business.
Yes.
CWJ Properties LLC.
Yes, sir. We have a new case and introduction before us of 23 SUP 332. Our landowner is Jesse M. Woodson Johnson of 3781 Petersville Church Road, New Canton. Applicant is CWJ Properties LLC. The tax map is 86, parcel 9 contains approximately 1 acre and is located at 3973 Petersville Church Road, New Canton, which is State Route 613 in the Marshall Magisterial District. This is an A1 zoning district, and the applicant wishes to obtain a special use permit to operate an adult home assisted living facility. The applicant is asking the Planning Commission to schedule a public hearing for this request. There are 10 conditions that you may consider as you review and evaluate this permit request. The applicant is with us this evening, and the question before you would it be the pleasure of the Planning Commission to schedule a public hearing for this request? October 23rd, 2023, 6 p.m. is the next regularly scheduled Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you, Nikki. Would the applicant come forward, please? Would you just give us a quick overview of what you provided on your application for us, please?
Okay. Good evening. My name is Jessie Woodson Johnson, and this is my husband, Lonnie Johnson. What we would like to do is own and operate an adult assisted living facility. We would like to start off being private under the social services regulations to be a private adult assisted living facility. In that business, you have to have no more than 3 residents. It's our desire that once that we'll be able to get our licensure through the state so that we'll be able to house more than 3 people. Right now, there are no adult or assisted living facilities in Buckingham County. The last one that I knew of was Mary Rest Home, and now they are called, I want to say Divine Diversity or something like that, but they house individuals that have developmental delay. So our proposed business is for adult people that are of age and people that are disabled. We have already, we already have a modular home there, and Pete came by today to look at and tour the home. It's very quiet. We may have 10 or less cars that travel our road every day, and sometimes they're the repeaters that live, down the road from us. It used to be a home where I was raised. My father built the home sometime in the 1950s, and a couple of years ago we took the home down because nobody has lived in it since 1994, and that was when my father was living in it. And then he moved in with my husband and I and family, and we took care of him for 7 years. Toward the end, he was bedridden, and we had to do everything for him. A couple of years ago, my husband's father moved in with us, and we took care of him from October of 2019 through May of 2020, and he missed by 2 weeks, I believe it was, from being 100 years old. And so we took care of him. We have 4 children, and they will be involved, in this operation. So it's going to be a family business, and we would like, the opportunity to start this home. As you know, people are living to be much older, and so there's going to be a need for it. Not everyone is qualified to, you know, be admitted into a nursing home because that's a higher level of care. We're looking for people that are still able to feed, bathe, and dress themselves. And we will provide shelter, food, and also, you know, do the laundry for them and also help them with their medication. And if they need transportation to go to their local doctor, then, you know, we can provide that, or in the event the families are not able to provide or take them to their medical appointments. We are currently about 15 minutes from the health center, Central Virginia Community Health Center. We are probably about 17 or 18 minutes from the rescue building in Ivonia, about 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes from Dillwyn Rescue Squad, the ambulance services and the fire departments. We are very close to the Cumberland County line. In fact, we can walk to the Cumberland County line. And, but in terms of what we plan, you know, other things that we plan to do, we plan to provide them with recreation. You know, we have a church that's a half a mile from our home, and, you know, they can either attend services there or relatives can pick them up and take them to their, you know, home churches. If one of the residents, you know, has a car and still, you know, driving, you know, they'll be able to do that. We just want to provide, you know, shelter, food, and do their laundry and make sure that they're in a safe environment. I've worked, my present job is 43 years, and I've advocated for the elderly, those that are disabled, and there have been many homes I have gone into and find that there's elderly people living in the home alone, or they're living, you know, in the home with loved ones, or loved ones living with them, but they're left, you know, alone because they have to go to work. And the way things are now, you know, there's so many scammers and, you know, people breaking into people's homes. At least, you know, they will be with us and they can be in a safe environment. The home is located on 1 acre of land. Where we live is we live right behind the proposed home. And so, you know, we plan to, well, my husband and I, we will be the ones that be doing the work. And then once we reach the age where, or the inability to take care of the home, we're going to hire someone to do what we normally would do. And we would like to be able to expand. That's why, you know, one of the reasons why we're going to get our license through the state, because we have more property there that we can also locate another, you know, house on. Not sure whether or not we can add to the current home that we have, because it's on 1 acre of land and it's 4 bedrooms. So we would, one of the largest bedroom will have two people in it, and that could be, you know, a couple. And then the other bedrooms, it could be, you know, an individual person. 2 of the bedrooms, we may be able to get 2 people in the room, but I was kind of looking at myself personally, you know, if I were to go into an adult home assisted living facility, I would like to be in a room, you know, alone. But we know that in adult homes and assisted living facilities, there are like 2 people, at least 2 people in the room. So We do know that one of the bedrooms are not large enough to have 2 people, but we believe that the other 2 are. But actually, the other 3 are. If any of you have any questions?
Okay, yeah, I'll turn it over to the commissioners at this point for questions.
Oh, I was just looking, how you doing? Good to see you. So you got 3 homes in front of you, so you just gonna use one?
No, we don't have but one in front of us.
Okay.
There were, I did have a double wide, that's no longer there. And then there was a single wide that my nieces own. They're no longer there. And then there was my father's home, which we took down and put the modular home there. So it's only one house in front of us.
That's all of that. I saw another picture, somebody was showing me the other day that somebody was taking care of the folks like you were talking about, but they had a whole bunch of smaller homes in a row trying to take care of them, so I was
Yeah,
just checking.
that space in front of us,
Yes.
we would like to, to be able to put at least 2 more homes in front of us.
I don't blame you.
That is, that's the reason why we want to go ahead and get our license through the state,
That's good.
so
You're
that
looking
we'll
out for
be able
somebody.
to, expand.
I'm glad to see you looking out for people like that. I think it's
Thank you.
good.
Any other questions? Yes, Pete?
First of all, I'd like to compliment you. I saw the property, it's absolutely gorgeous, and I saw what you did with your modular home. I mean, it's just remarkable, very nice.
Thank you.
The question I would ask you, and I'm gonna defer a little bit here to Ms. Gooden. I know that, I didn't see any fire extinguishers in your house. I'm assuming you're gonna have some of those just in case.
I believe we do have one, that's in the utility room.
Okay. What about, and I'm gonna defer to Ms. Gooden, but what about a defibrillator unit? Is that something that's common in a house that would house people who are either elderly or should there be somebody trained to use it?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
may I
go
speak?
ahead.
Okay. First, my background is pediatrics, but I think he's referring to an AED
Yes.
that would have a safety. So there would be safety checks, I'm sure, and that you would meet ADA regulations. So if someone was there with a wheelchair, so there would be in your licensure
Right.
some outline delineating what kind of health and safety checks that are required. So if they require a fire extinguisher, or if they require an AED, or if they require somebody to know CPR, those would, that's it. But I'm thinking an AED would be a nice-to-have thing. Knowing CPR would be nice, but all babysitters should know CPR too, but they don't. And so I don't know if that's a requirement. My only regulations have been with daycares, with pediatrics, on military bases, which I stopped in 1994 when I
So the
retired.
suggestion is that it would be up to the licensor.
I don't know the
Would be up to the requirement, yeah.
regulations, but just from her background, I'm going with, she's going by the regulation, and since she's going to the state, she would know what is required. And also, I would not anticipate her doing just the minimum. As she was talking about the bedrooms, she said, well, could put 2 people in there, but I'm thinking one person would go there. So I'm thinking she's talking about comfort, so I just don't envision her doing the bare minimum. Okay.
Well, other than that, those are the only 2 questions, but I thought it was excellent.
Mr. Johnson, do you know, have you done enough investigating to know how long the process will take to perhaps get licensed so you can expand?
Yes, I contacted the state, and since Buckingham is in the region with Roanoke, I had to call the Roanoke office and, had a conversation about, expanding and licensure. And I was told it's a 3-month process.
3 months. Okay. I'm just curious on that, so.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Woodson, I'm going to out you because I don't think the commissioners all know that you once served on this board. And so I really don't anticipate you doing the bare minimum because you have sat here in our position and done the work that we're doing. And so you know what it takes to get something done. And like I said, I don't anticipate you doing just the bare minimum. Your work on the board before has spoken for itself. So, I didn't know if you knew that she was a planning commissioner. Unless she told you today or something.
Did.
Yeah, she's been a planning commissioner and on the board of supervisors. So she's not going to give us shoddy work. Okay.
All right, very good. Any other questions for applicant? All right, ma'am, you can go ahead and sit down. Thank y'all. All right, I'll turn this application over to the commission. Do we want to move this forward to public hearing?
Yeah, I'd make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
I'd make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to move this forward to public hearing. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Very good. We'll see you October 23rd. Yes, sir. Okay, thank you, ma'am. Nikki, that brings us to your building reports and everything.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, the building permits report is there for informational purposes, and I don't have anything as zoning administrator this evening.
Okay, very good. All right, commission matters and concerns. Any commissioners? Joyce, you didn't?
Mr. Chairman, yes, Mr. Chairman, I do have some concerns, and it has to do with the public comment section. And we have county emails accounts for public comments that we can get emails there, and I'm quite willing to read those messages. My question is, how do I stop the emails from people who just happen to have my personal email account and decide they're going to email me at home, so to speak? That's one. You want all of them, Nikki?
Let me just reiterate, the first question is in regards to your personal email.
Right. I'm getting messages, and one of the reasons we have the county, I use the county, is for FOIA. And if I've got stuff in my personal, then all of that makes all of that subject. I don't want that.
Well, do not engage on your personal email and redirect them to your county email. If any information is exchanged, or there is a discussion amongst that particular individual in your email, and there is a FOIA request, yes, your personal email, but you can direct them. There is no communication regarding county work and policies on this email. Please contact me at jgooden@.
Okay, thank you. It has also, if a person is making a public comment, there is no need to give me the copy of the comment that they're making. And that's just my personal thing, because I'm listening to the comments anyway. And then I'm also taking notes as I'm listening. I'm making notations. So to give me, and then the public comments are put in the minutes. So there's no reason to give me a copy of what you're saying. So I think they're kind of burning trees on that. It's just redundant. And if there's additional information, just like we got copies of the chart today, and the additional information that Mr. Snoddy gave us, that was something different. But even with that, if we could have that, because by the time they walk here and give each one of us, that kind of takes time, and we all move at different speeds, and we're Southern, and there's conversation and moving down. So I would like to have, if it's okay with you, Nikki, any other handouts that they come through you, if there are any other additional handouts, and if there's something else that the person during the public comments did not think of, to include, and they, oh, I've got this, that it comes through you, because that kind of speeds up the process. And I say that we had only a few comments tonight, but I've sat through public comments, and I'm looking at my numbers, and I think I hit, what did I hit, 80? You remember that night I was doing, he's like, what number are we now? And everybody hands out. Sometimes it can get quite tedious. So I'm just looking for a more efficient way. And if it's up here when I come in, I can go, oh, look at this, this is something additional. So I would appreciate that. Those were my comments, and that's just me. I don't know how the rest of the board feels about that.
Well, I will say it would be beneficial to have additional information that handout prior to them handing it before they speak. So maybe what we could do is when they have a sign-up, is if they have a handout they want to give the commissioners, is give that to you, or, have it stated on the sign-up page. That way they know to hand it to you, and you can put it on us, and we might have a chance to look at it prior to them speaking. It would be beneficial, that way you know what what they're going towards. As far as I don't know how you could ask them just to email the second issue you had with handing out what they say. You could just ask them to, I don't know how you would really resolve that, other than say, well, you could just email it. All of them have email
Right.
prior to the public comment period. And maybe that'll work, I don't know. It doesn't say they will do it, it just says that's an option, so.
And I agree, because I read G's email earlier. It was in our,
Yes.
we had already been sent that, so I had already read those comments. I appreciate you reading them into the minutes. And I'm not talking about that part, but
Yeah.
it comes to me, I read it.
That when they're actually speaking their comment and then hand you a copy of it as well. I think it's probably a courtesy. Maybe it gives you
Yeah.
time to take it home and digest
And
the
look at it
information.
closer, yeah.
But yes, ma'am, we could, do some very courteous housekeeping so that it doesn't inconvenience the speaker the night of that, and that may help them as well, because then if they're able to give it to us just a little bit prior, that will help you all understand that, and not so much engage in a dialogue during the comment period, but certainly you'd be able to contact them afterwards, or they would be able to contact you on your county email, just to encourage further discussion from their representative. So I'm sure there's a way to address and manage that appropriately, and I will do all I can.
Okay, that's all we can ask. All right. Any other commissioners before we adjourn? All right, I do want to make one announcement. In October, there will be a solar farm coming from my district, New Canton. They're having a community meeting at the Arvonia Firehouse on Wednesday, October the 11th, between 5 and 7 o'clock. I am a minority owner in one of the properties, so I will have to abstain from participating. I've already told Ashley, and so she'll be taking over that meeting. October the 11th, Wednesday, October the 11th, at 5 to 7. And it's at the Arvonia Firehouse, which is right to the west of 15. And it will be in the old building, they've got a new building, but it'll be in the old building. They'll have charts and everything set up like all the others do. But I just wanted to announce that for you. All right, if no one has anything, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Any discussion? I didn't think so. All in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you. We are adjourned.